everyone, it's Beth Sager, and we're here with another Lexington Local, and you might be able to guess by what's behind us. We are in the youth part of our fabulous Cary Library with Alissa Lauzon, who is the head of youth services, and she's so nice to meet with us before the library even opened, so she's very dedicated.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. So tell us what your job is here.
So I am the head of youth services, so I am basically in charge of all aspects of library services from birth all the way up through 18.
Oh, 18, okay.
All the way up through 18. I supervise the teen staff as well in the teen room.
Okay.
So that involves like all the collections, all the programming, anything that we do for youth from birth to 18, I am in charge.
Wow, that's a lot. Do you have a big staff that works?
I do. The youth services department is not big enough, but we are a fairly large department. I have about 8 full-time staff and then a handful of part-time staff.
Wow. So I know you do a lot of programming. We participated through the years. Like, do you come up with those ideas? Like, what's the
team effort?
Okay.
All of the full-time staff do some aspects of programming. They create their own original programming. We also hire outside performers to come in and do things that we can't do, like Kids Cooking Green. They come in and do several cooking classes a month. Right now they're all virtual, but they're hugely popular. Mm-hmm. We can't do that. We're not Safe Serve certified. I am not a chef. Nobody wants to eat my cooking. And so Lori and her team come in and teach the kids how to cook, and it's wonderful. We'll hire musicians to come in. That type of thing. Mm-hmm. But story times are all done by staff, and we also do a lot of our own kind of creative original programming as well.
So when it comes to the books, I mean, you've got a gazillion of them, but I mean, are people still writing children's books?
Oh yeah, the children's publishing industry is leading the publishing industry right now. I would say it is carrying the publishing industry.
Really?
Adult authors don't like to hear that, but I think that I personally think that it is, both in terms of the bringing the diversity into publishing. I think the youth publishing is really leading the way in that. But sales is very much being led by the children's market right now, in my opinion.
Wow.
I'm not biased in any way.
No, of course not. So how do you pick the books then?
So we read professional reviews. We get, I think, 6 different professional review journals that we read, which are people who read books and write their kind of professional opinions on them. A lot of them are done by librarians who have a critical eye about the content of the books. Also patron requests. If somebody asks me for a book and they're a Lexington resident, unless I can't get it or there's some reason where we wouldn't want to add it to the collection, most of the time I buy it because this is the Lexington Community Library. Mm-hmm. I want to have the books that you want to have on the shelves. Mm-hmm. So if you ask me for a book, 9 times out of 10 I'm going to buy it unless there's some reason that I can't. Most of the time when I can't, it's because I'm asked for a book that's been published abroad and has not been released in the US yet, and I can't buy books that are only published in England.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just the way that our procurement works. I just can't buy overseas books. So we have to wait for it to slowly come to the U.S. market. They usually do.
Right.
It's just a little bit of a longer wait. Mm-hmm. So we read professional review journals. I follow a lot of YouTubers and people who review on Instagram, like Bookstagang is what they're called, who are looking at diversity in books. So who have a different lived experience than I do and are looking for books that represent their lived experience. Mm-hmm. To add it to the diversity of our collection. Mm-hmm. So I'm constantly looking for that, to add new perspectives. It's a lot of that.
Okay. I didn't know if you got them and you got to read them and decide.
Oh, I read a lot.
Yeah.
I absolutely read a lot. I read about 600 books a year.
Wow, okay.
That includes picture books. I mean,
right, but still. Good amount of books.
I read a lot. Right. But I have to be able to talk to the kids about the books. I have to know what's in them. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I find this library always gives good advice. I would bring my son in who read a lot and be like, okay, he's read all that. What can he read next? And you guys are great at saying,
that's my favorite part of my job.
Did you read this? Did you read that? So it's fun. That's nice.
I love talking to kids about books.
Yeah.
I would do it all day if I could.
That is nice. So what resources, I mean, obviously you have books here, but what else do you have in collections and what have you?
So we have our books, we have all of our AV, so if you are somebody who is looking for books on Playway, we have those. We have books on CD still, which actually go out more than I actually expect, given that most people don't have CD players anymore.
Right.
I was like, you can't get a car with a CD player now. So I'm always impressed that our books on CD still go out as much as they do.
Mm-hmm.
I made the mistake of buying my niece a music CD for Christmas one year, and then I got a call from my sister, I have to go buy a CD player. I'm like, oh, sorry. People don't have those anymore. We have music CDs still, a very small collection, but we still have those. We have our children's learning kits, which are things from board games all the way up to what we call our early literacy kits, which are designed to incorporate early literacy skills. And they have things like puppets and mirrors and little tips for parents on how to use them with your kids to promote early literacy skills. Mm-hmm. We have our world language collection, which has, I believe, 35 languages in it.
Wow.
Spoken in the community.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
We have a lot of stuff here.
Right. And what is your favorite part? Well, I know you said you like talking to the kids about books, but like, how did you get into this profession?
I had an interesting road to being a children's librarian. So when I went to library school, I was actually going to be an academic librarian. I went right to library school from college. I was a history and English major, and I was going to be an academic librarian. Like, when I was in college, I was a history major, and I would go, like, they would assign the paper on the first day of class for the term, and I would go and I would fully research 5 or 6 topics before I would actually sit down the weekend before the paper was due to write the paper.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I clearly like research, that's my thing, I should be a librarian. Mm-hmm. So I talked to my professor, he gets me set up working at the college library for my work study, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. I was like, okay, I am going to be an academic librarian. So I go to one of the best master's programs for academic librarians, and I like, this is my thing. I've taken all the reference classes, and I love it. But I've always read children's books. I mean, even in college, I was still reading kind of what was considered young adult at the time, and children's books, middle grade, just for fun, just for pleasure. And so for fun, I took one of those like 2-week intensive children's literature classes just to like get a couple more credits and just for fun. Mm-hmm. And I get a note from my professor on my final paper of like, call me when you realize your true calling as a children's librarian. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna be an academic librarian. Like, this is my jam. I like research, I like this. And so like I graduate and I start applying for jobs. And I find myself applying for public library reference jobs. And then I find myself applying for children's jobs. And then I take a job as a teen librarian in Haverhill. And then I had to eat crow. And she came to Massachusetts and she did an early Every Child Ready to Read parent workshop for librarians on like what to do with your baby and early literacy. And so I went to that and had to eat crow, and she made me stand up in front of all the librarians and told this whole story. And I was like, yes. I was slow to realize my true calling. Aww. But I've never looked back, and I love it. So
that's so nice that you knew, like, you know, from the start, basically. So without that little,
a slight detour along the way, but I've always known I wanted to be a librarian.
Yeah. So tell people something that you think they may not know about this whole section of the library.
Ooh, I think there's a lot of things that people don't realize that we have. Mm-hmm. I think our On the Road to Reading program is probably one program that people are not as aware of as I wish that they were. It's an early literacy program for kids who have not yet started kindergarten.
Okay.
And we encourage you to read 1,000 books with your child before they start kindergarten.
Wow.
And everyone goes, 1,000 books? Oh, we can't do that. Stop and think about it. How many books do you read with your child before you go to bed?
A lot.
I'm going to guess it's at least 3.
Right.
If you read 3 books with your kid every night before they go to bed, you're done with this program in a year.
Wow. Yeah. Right? That's
right?
True. Yeah.
And I'm going to guess most of you probably read more than 3 books to your kid a day.
Right.
Because kids at that age love books.
Right.
So you're already doing this, and we want to reward you for doing it, and we want to encourage you and your kid to sit down together and read. So we have this program. You register, we'll give you a free bag to come carry your library books in, okay. And then every 100 books we give your kid a sticker. Okay. And then at 500 and 1,000 books, once you hit those milestones, we'll give you a free book to keep to add to your personal library. And then when your child hits 1,000 books, they get a t-shirt. And the promise of a party, which we've only ever successfully been able to throw one party, thank you, pandemic. But we do owe a bunch of kids a party, which we will, I promise, get to at some point in the future.
That's fun. Now, does it count if you have to read the same book night after
Absolutely.
night?
You can read Goodnight Moon 1,000 times.
Well, do I have to?
No. No, but
you can.
Right, exactly. Because, I mean, repetition at that age is important.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, like everyone's like, oh, my kid only wants to read the same book over and over again. That's a good thing.
Okay.
Because they're learning those language skills and they're learning new vocabulary. Every time you read that book, that's reinforcing those vocabulary.
Right.
So it's not a bad thing. Like, you might be tired of Goodnight
Right.
Moon, but there's a lot of language learning that's happening every time you read Goodnight Moon. So, you know, yeah, work at a new book or two every once in a while, but if your child has a favorite book and that's the only book they want to read for like 3 months, don't worry about it.
Nice. All right. So let's skip over to young adults.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? When do you think kids should head to the young adult collection?
So we start transitioning them at 6th grade. They
Okay.
can go into the teen room at 6th grade.
Okay.
Obviously, they want to go get a book. They can go in, but they can't, like, as we say, cop a squat until they're in 6th grade.
Okay.
But it's really up to the individual families. The children's room collection kind of we cover that middle school where we do in both places.
Mm-hmm.
Some 6th graders are ready for the teen room and they're like, we're done with this, bye-bye.
Right.
And some 6th graders are like, I'm not sure I'm ready yet. And that's okay. It's every kid is different, every family is different. So we have the between collection and then in the teen room, that's kind of that middle school collection.
Okay.
And you'll find that there's a lot of duplication in that collection and also in the children's room, and it's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
It's to help kids kind of transition. We're looking to build that bridge as they're like aging into the teen room.
Mm-hmm.
For the kids that are not quite sure, there's some books in both places.
Gotcha. Nice. Well, thank you so much for your
Of course,
time.
my pleasure.
This was wonderful. So, it's one of my favorite places in town, for sure.
I love it.